Hey everyone. I have gotten 4 emails in the last 2 days from folks around the Boston area in Massachusetts, New England, hoping to get information about open water swimming in the early season. So, cold water, acclimation, getting into open water for the first time, potentially in their lives as a long distance swimmer. So, kind of two different things here. And I wanted to chat about both of them, giving you my experiences on being in an open water environment from transferring from a pool environment. It's going to be the first part. And the second part is going to be cold water acclimation. So, my goal is to answer some questions that I've received, and I've had some phone calls with folks who are looking for that mentorship, and I wanted to just send some information out into the universe, hoping that I can help bring an element of safety and preparedness, and give a couple of my experiences with both of those things, because I was once in that boat. I'd never swam open water before. And I didn't know how to deal with cold open water. Like, if you're a pool swimmer, you're used to like 79 to 86 degree water, depending on whether you're in a competition pool or at a local YMCA, or a kids swimming lesson pool, even an outdoor pool in the summer, because it's heated by sunshine, it's probably pretty warm. And you haven't had to deal with things like risks of hypothermia, and all the effects of that, as well as rewarming process and after drop. So I want to talk to those because I think like right now those are hand in hand. We don't have access to pools. I think most pools are going to stay closed through the summer. And right now people are itching to get their fix, as am I. And I understand you see a body of water and you're like, hey, I can swim. I really want to swim. What's stopping me from hopping in? So, to give you an overview as to how I transitioned from a pool swimmer to an open water swimmer, there are a couple of really funny stories, but I had a close group of friends that I had looked to for support. My first experience with open water swimming was I was invited to do a short swim from Hull to Little Brewster Island under a full moon during a super low tide, because the idea was we could walk onto a sandbar that connected these two islands, out in the Boston Harbor. And I think this was literally a 1.5 mile swim, and I'd never swam open water before. So my friend Kristen and I, she was the one who found out about it. She encouraged me to try it out because up until that event, I had primarily done I'd done a couple triathlons, but it was, a 500-meter swim in a canal in Indianapolis is very different, than doing an open water swim in the ocean with just a kayak or a canoe as support. But, I can swim 1.5 miles in a pool. Surely swimming in the ocean is the same thing. A little saltier, whatever. So, the organizer, Jeffrey Ferris, who was a neighbor of ours and owns a local bike shop in Jamaica Plain, he's like, this is going to be great. He's an astrologist. He does all these cool things. He's very much into sporting events and athleticism and encouraging the community to be able to partake in these like very random things like stargazing and being able to see a full moon or whatnot, at a king low tide, and getting to walk on a sandbar that is only available a couple times a year. And so Kristen and I had rented a wetsuit for me. Never worn a wetsuit before, noob, right? They had suggested some Body Glide. I was like, I'll be fine. I took some anyway, bought it, whatever. So the morning of, we managed to carpool and get a bunch of folks down here. There was supposed to be 6 swimmers and 6 support boaters, and it was I should say there were 6 support vessels. I think there were probably like 8 or 9 support people, and some folks were kayaking out. They're going to switch with their swimmer, and then they would do the opposite function to come back from the island later that day. This was also September 10th, I believe, like 5 or 6 years ago. So the day before September 11th, never a good day to plan something like this, and here's why. So we had decided to meet at like 3:30 or 4 in the morning because we needed to leave at a certain time and we didn't want to get stuck at this major shipping channel. Oh yes, this gets better. So it's cold. It is cold. The water is in the low 60s to mid 60s. There were a couple folks that were way more everyone on this trip was way more experienced with open water swimming and open water shore support or open water boating support, shore support, etc. than I was. I'd never done anything like this. I'm still like, yeah, getting my wetsuit on, putting a little bit of water right there. That's all. I was like, oh, it'll be fine. Don't need it. Oh, I don't know, in my armpits or anywhere else that my wetsuit touches my body. I'll be fine. So we managed to somehow not kill ourselves. We didn't know where to put the boats in. So this hadn't been entirely thought out. We're just like, we'll get there, we'll throw the boats in the water, the swimmers will jump in off of something, and we're going to get going. Like, we can see the lighthouse, it's a mile and a half away. It's going to be pretty clear, just like beeline to the island. So we were there, we're looking for a spot to actually get in the water. Turns out there really isn't a spot to get in the water safely. So we somehow, literally cannot see in front of our faces, manage without killing anyone to get 6 support vessels. I think there were 5 kayaks and a canoe, and each support vessel was assigned to a swimmer. So the swimmer and their support person or persons, I think there was one kayak that was a double kayak, and then there was a canoe that fit 2 people, then a father and son. So I was the swimmer that was assigned the canoe. Very thankful. They were amazing, but every swimmer had to help their crew person get their vessel into the water, down these huge rocks. Like, it was this like incredibly difficult terrain to get yourself as a human being down, let alone carrying a boat connected to another person's hands that were like swinging wildly trying to get down the rocks at the same time as you. Somehow we all made it without breaking our necks or our faces open. And I don't know how, to this day, like, mind-boggling how we didn't just like call this whole thing off because someone had died before we even got in the water. But we managed. Also, always bring like a headlamp if you know you're meeting before dawn. But I didn't know. So we set off, and I'd never sighted off of a support vessel before. I didn't realize that the waves were actually going to be pretty high. So I think we had like 3 to 4 foot swells, which nowadays is like, meh, 3 to 4 foot swells. Yeah, that sucks. That's rough water. But you know that you shouldn't freak out. Freaking out doesn't help. I didn't know. So panic ensues within the first like 200 meters, which granted, we only had to go for like 2,100 meters or something. So, but I didn't know that. Well, I kind of knew that, but all I could think of at that point is I'm in a wetsuit I've never seen before. I'm uncomfortable. I am drinking salt water because every time I take a breath, because I didn't know that I should adjust my breathing. I didn't recognize I needed to like put my head into my armpits to breathe and switch to only breathing to one side. I swam as a pool swimmer would swim. And yes, I was an adult. I still am an adult, but I was old enough to know I should have researched it beforehand. But I just didn't think about this. Like, no one really tells you all these stuff that you have to expect unless you actually do your due diligence and read blogs and talk to other open water swimmers who actually have experience. I just thought, like, hell with it. Yeah, I'm a swimmer. I can do it. So I'm a medium pace swimmer, but what ends up starting to happen is because of the salt water, which I was not used to, my tongue was swelling. I was drinking a lot, trying to like see my canoe over the waves, and there's a lot. It's frisky water, right? And the way that the waves were rolling, in addition to these white caps, they were all hitting me sideways because of how we were trying to like get to this island. So there wasn't a good way of like, if you're swimming and you're swimming this way into the waves while they're hitting you and you're having to kind of go into the waves or they're behind you, it's a lot less nauseating and creating motion sickness than if they're rolling you from side to side this way, right? So what I was finding was every 3 to 4 minutes, I was dry heaving. I hadn't eaten anything, so there was nothing for me to throw up, which is good and bad. But my body was just like, I cannot cope with this. I'm in a horizontal plane. I'm rolling sideways. I can't see I'm panicking. Like the stress level is really high. The water is cold to me. Like I know right now, low 60s would feel very balmy based on some of the cold water stuff I've been doing. But back then, I was used to 80-degree pools that had temperature controlled environments and not, cold wind and me exerting myself trying, I'm literally like my back is pushing the life out of me at this point because I'm dry heaving so hard. So at this point, I have literally started holding onto, like gripping the end of, I don't remember, it might have been a kayak or just something it was a 2-person vessel. I think I blocked it out actually. So I am gripping this boat for dear life because all I can think of is like, if I can just throw up, if I can throw something up, I'll be able to put my face back in the water. And yes, it's going to hurt because my tongue is stinging because it's swollen from the salt water. But like, if I could just stop dry heaving, I could catch a breath. And with open water, like with swimming in general, if you aren't able to catch your breath, your heart rate goes up. When your heart rate goes up, you need to breathe some more because your body needs to pump more oxygen more rapidly because all your muscles are on alert and you're literally in like a incredibly stressful situation where your body is trying to help you survive. If you aren't being able to breathe, you're stressing out, your heart rate goes even higher, you still can't breathe, now you're throwing up, still can't catch your breath, you are exerting yourself to the point of fatigue, trying to just keep your body alive. This is all happening within like a few minutes, right? So we're far enough from shore, and now I've fallen behind. My crew and I are like, we gotta go. Like all of the other 5 swimmers are well ahead of us. We have to keep going. At this point, I think I'm going to die. Like I was miserable. It was at no point fun anymore. It was a survival adventure instead of a fun adventure. So I think it's called like type B fun, which is I'm going to block this out and remember it as a happy memory later, but it's going to take some time because I'm in such a unfortunate position right now within my own mind and within my body, just remembering this unpleasantness right now. So again, I should have done my homework. I should have known better. At this point, also, fun story, my wetsuit has chafed me so incredibly badly. And I don't even know how this happened because I got like sized for the right wetsuit. I tried a couple on. They were like, this is the best fit for you. But it was primarily chafing around my neck. So it was getting really hard for me to like turn my head to actually breathe. Then I take on more salt water. As I swallow more and more salt water, I get more and more sick. I'm still dry heaving. So I'm like, okay. Started doing some breaststroke, trying to get my heart rate down, trying to get control of my breathing. Finally, interchanging breaststroke with freestyle, going very slowly. I'm now way back in the pack. We are finally getting close enough to Lighthouse that I can consider it like we are almost there. The sun is starting to come up. We can kind of see what's happening. And we're being yelled at I think someone had a marine radio, and I'm not sure how they were communicating. I'm hoping it was a marine radio and they weren't just like yelling because we were so poorly prepared, but who knows? So we were told, my crew was told we had to go around part of this island because it turns out, again, I was not the only one poorly prepared. I take responsibility that I didn't do my research as a swimmer. But the crew persons, the event organized, this wasn't even an event. This was like a bunch of people getting together being like, hey, what would be really stupid to do, but really fun? Let's go do this thing in the middle of the night. It was not formal. They hadn't realized that Little Brewster is a active Coast Guard base. And around the island it's a rock wall that's very difficult to get up. Maybe a swimmer could do it, but definitely not a boat of any kind. Definitely not a kayak. There's no shoving a boat up these rocks. There's no portaging this thing. So they had designed this island that we were supposed to land on to have only one entry point. And the entry point is essentially a dock with a boat ramp that is designed for people to like come down and visually see whoever is landing on the island because it's a Coast Guard base. So very well thought out per the Coast Guard, very poorly thought out by us. So we have recognized that there are certain swimmers in distress. I was very much one of them. Unfortunately, my very first open water experience, I was in moderate to severe distress at this point, mostly from the fact that I like could not stop throwing up. So I was having like these convulsions, and because I wasn't able to keep my stroke rate up, I was getting pretty cold too, even though I was in a wetsuit. So we finally rounded the corner, saw where we're supposed to get up. We see that there's quite a few people. There are a few medics from the Coast Guard base. There are people on radios. There are people in uniform. It is not just like the 15 of us that decided to embark. Like there are several other people, and it doesn't look like a good landing situation. But I had no choice. A few of the other folks didn't either. So one of the swimmers who was going to swim there and then kayak back to alternate with his crew person so that the crew person could swim, his lips are turning blue because he was extremely cold. There was another girl who was just shivering, which, yeah, it's cold as soon as you get out of the water. Like we hadn't packed I packed a towel and a hoodie to come onto my boat with me. I hadn't packed all of the right rewarming gear because no one ever really tells you that you're going to get detained at a Coast Guard base when you do something like this. But just assume next time you go on an adventure that there's the risk of you getting detained, and just know you should probably, plan accordingly. So that's what happened. We got detained. We were brought back to Hull on coastal vessels. So they were just speedboats that took us back. All the kayakers and the canoeists received a very, very strong warning never to do it again. Everyone was on edge because we decided to do it the day before September 11th, which is a bad day to walk on to a naval base or a Coast Guard base. It's a really bad day to just show up. They didn't know we were coming. No one told them we were coming. So lots of lessons I learned. So after that day, I swore I would never open water swim again in my life. A few things happened. When I finally got my wetsuit off, that they had told me smartly, don't take the wetsuit off until you get back to wherever you have the rest of your clothes. It's better that you sit in a neoprene while we escort you on this Coast Guard vessel back to Hull. They actually had ambulances waiting, and they required us to get checked out because they were concerned we were hypothermic, and we all mildly were. They had every right and reason to say that. Thankfully, we were allowed to get back in our own cars and not transported to a hospital, which we got off really lucky. This whole thing could have gone really, really awry, so much worse than it did. And I'm very thankful that somehow people much smarter and calmer than I had their wits about them explaining, actually, no, we're swimmers and, we plan to do this. And yes, it was very poorly planned and we hadn't given folks a heads up, but we're okay. We don't need to be taken to a hospital and we should just get to go home. So as I took the wetsuit off in the ambulance, I was heated. They gave us emergency blankets, which is really warm and nice. Always have an emergency blanket. Like the Mylar little pack blankets, actually very helpful. So the wetsuit had caused an incredible amount of chafing. I also had stupidly rented a wetsuit cap with a strap. Again, don't wear something on an event that you've never worn before. It's not going to go well. Even a new swimsuit, new pair of goggles, new cap. Okay, maybe a cap. Still off, but just don't wear new equipment when you're going out for a big thing that you've never done before. So the wetsuit had created this extremely chafed, there was blood because it had chafed so badly, and it had started to scab over in some spots all the way around my neck. Worse on these areas where, we get them from all the chafing swimmers gets, the suit hickeys, but I got them bleeding. I had a couple other spots like in my armpits and around my chest area that had gotten pretty chafed up too. So that was fun. I managed to get home. They don't tell you when you're that chafed, like you probably shouldn't just jump in a shower. I didn't know to rewarm myself slowly, even though I had just kind of stopped shivering by the time we had driven home from home, because it was about an hour drive home. The whole car ride, like I didn't even know about AfterDrop. I didn't know, don't hop in a hot shower because you'll burn yourself because your skin's still cold. I know I'm an idiot. Like, I will tell you that. But when you have gone through this, you're like really not thinking clearly. Like I probably right now, had I never open water swam before, if you'd say, hey, should you put your ice cold skin in a bucket of hot ass water? I'd say no, that seems dumb. But when you're so cold, all you can think of is like, I just want to get in a hot shower. And that's what I did. And it felt awful. Like I thought I was going to pass out. The burning from the chafing was overwhelming. Like it was so much pain. It was just such a bad experience. So, that day I went to work. My boss thought I had tried to hang myself that morning because the burn or the chafing looked like a rope burn. I was asked by numerous police officers whether I needed assistance out of a domestic violence situation or if I needed to be, institutionalized, if I was a risk to myself or a potential risk of harm to others. There was a lot going on. So that was kind of my first experience with open water swimming. My point being, this is a very long story, and I hope that you've had some amusing learnings from it. If you were deciding to go out, whether the water is warm or not, if you're in the southern US and you have like 60, 70 degree water right now, maybe you're in the Gulf, like I usually swim down the street at my pool, but now I'm going to go like I'm going to do a 5K in the ocean because I do a 5K at practice. It's so different. I urge you, reach out to someone who has done open water swimming before. Find what their safety their safety equipment is. I always have a tow float with me when I swim alone. If I know that I'm going to be out in open water, like ocean water, especially if I'm swimming alone, I have extra feed. I have a little tiny water bottle, like a towware, little small thing that I can fit into the back of my tow float because it has a little storage compartment that just in case I start dry heaving and I become my nutrient levels change and I have an electrolyte deficiency where I'm not thinking clearly, which I will tell that story and post it later as part 2. Make sure that you have an extra bit of nutrition. Make sure you have a safety blanket. And all this stuff, it can go into Ziploc bags that you can tear open or rip open if you need to, if you're literally stranded somewhere. Let's say you swim down the coast and your plan was to swim down and come back, but because of the current, because of the wind or whatnot, maybe you're exhausted. Maybe like me, you're extremely nauseous because the way the waves were going that way, you were getting rolled to seasickness, and you decide that you're going to hop out at the end and you're going to walk back, and you can become hypothermic. You might get detained on a Coast Guard base. So now I plan for the worst and I hope for the best. But I always remember that my body, it may not be used to, just because I've swam, it doesn't mean I've swam in other conditions. So to that, I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about the cold, because a little piece of this was cold. And I thought I have a wetsuit that'll take care of it, but it definitely isn't. So there are a couple aspects to the cold piece of that new environment. So a couple of folks who have emailed me have said, I've swam open water before and I don't have an issue with swimming alone. I have all the safety equipment. I've just never gone in the water this cold. So here the water is about 50 right now, 49 to 50 in the fresh water. I'm guessing the ocean's a little colder than that right now. And we've had a lot of rain. So the temperature varies by 2 to 3 degrees, depending on whether we finally have sunshine here. I'll believe it when I see it, or if we're having rain, which is seemingly constant now. So to those folks who are not used to the cold water piece of open water swimming, I encourage you, if you are dead set on going, fine, I support you. if you can take a buddy or have I call them my it's like shore support, in crew, like whenever I'd go and row out in the harbor, also another story for another time. But the Boston Rowing Club, they called it their worrier. So there's someone there to worry about them until they get back. Like, have someone with you. And if you're worried about social distancing, drive 2 different cars there, have that person wear a mask, and just walk along the shore with you. And you don't go far. That's the other responsibility. So if you're going to a small lake and it's your first time in cold water like this, so you're not sure if you're used to it, stay right by the shore. And it's going to be boring. You're going to swim back and forth and look at the same thing over and over again, or just swim out and come back, out and come back. And you can do like a little bit of an out and back situation, but don't like loop a lake. Don't decide, oh yeah, I'll swim like around an island or something. No. If it is probably your first to 6th, 7th time, stay really close to shore, stay close to your stuff. Make sure that you, especially if it's your first time, you have someone worrying about you. And it'd be great if they were there. Other open water swimmers can do that for you. Reach out, ask on Facebook, like look out for folks who are also going, and you just know if it's their first time, maybe you two need to have warriors together. Someone's husband maybe can come, or wife. Because on top of that, they can help you if you get out and your hands and feet are the first things to go. And your brain starts to get mushy too. Like, you're not like, oh, my hands are in pain, I should do XYZ. Like, very similar to the situation I had experienced with jumping into the hot shower. You're just not thinking clearly. And so your hands might not be working, your feet might not be working, and you'll decide that it's safe to drive home. Terrible decision, but you're like, I want to go home because there's food and hot water and whatnot. No. Bring a water bottle that has, or a thermos that has warm, not hot, warm water. Make sure that you have all of your clothes laid out right where you're supposed to get out. Like, know where that spot is, so you can literally walk out and immediately drape a towel around yourself, or have someone drape a towel around you. If you can, put a little towel down that you can step on it, brush your feet off, and then put them into a pair of like warm slippers or boots, or even if you're just going to wear sandals. I wear flip-flops because my feet are going to be cold anyway. I probably could do better. I could wear a pair of like warm boots, but it helps to not keep your feet pressed against cold ground if you're on sand or cement or whatnot, and it's 50 degrees outside. It helps you start retaining your warmth. Remember, if your hands and feet are not working, it's going to be really hard to do something like zip up a jacket. So have something that you can very easily put on your body. Maybe it's a coat that you can just use a towel wrap, or something to close, like a belt, a tie belt. It will be difficult for you to get out of your suit. Make sure you're wearing a suit that's not too hard to get out of. I made a stupid decision one time to wear a brand new suit, and the water was cold. And I literally couldn't get my thumbs underneath the straps of my suit. And to even pull it all the way down your body, just scratching yourself with thumbs that don't bend correctly, don't do it. Like, if you're not going to be any warmer in a one piece than you are in a 2-piece, and if a 2-piece is easier for you to get off, or you can just untie it and someone can rip it off you if needed, do it. If you have a towel that you can cut to make into a tent, so you can more easily change, or have a parka or a coat that you can throw on, zip up, and then slowly take your suit off underneath it while you start that warming process, great. Make sure that you have a good situation for getting back to your car. At Walden, which is where I've been swimming recently, most people have to walk quite a ways. They have to walk up a hill to get back to their cars. And so if you are concerned about that, you should probably bring a human being, where they can go and get the car warm, or maybe they can drive the car a little bit closer to get you if all things are going poorly and you're really cold. Because your best bet will be to get in a car with the heat on. And if you have to walk 2 miles to get back to your car from a beach or something, that is not a good situation for someone who isn't used to cold water acclimatization. I know I've been talking for a while, and this ended up being a lot longer than I expected, but I wanted to make sure folks really understood what the risks are. I'm not saying don't go. Like, it is beautiful. I'm gonna do another video about my experience getting into cold water so that you understand what you're getting yourself into. But this was more so a planning of, like, if it's your first time going from a pool to an open water environment, or an open water environment that you have never been in those conditions before, you need to take it seriously. I was very flippant in my first few times that I got into cold water. I'll do a follow-up episode later and post it, but do not be flippant about the risks to your body and how you think your brain will react. Because I can promise you, my brain gets weird. I start thinking like, oh yeah, I can do another 10 minutes in this. And then by the time I get out, my hands are the claw, my fingers don't work. I can't zip up my parka. There is no getting underwear on. I have to hope that I don't have to go anywhere. Like, don't plan to go anywhere afterward, but like, try to make sure you don't have to get gas or something on the way home, because it's not going to work. And then the rewarming process, it just takes so much out of you. That's the one last thing that I'll mention here is you might only swim like 10, 15 minutes open water in 50, 51 degree water. Sure, that's a great accomplishment, because what you don't know is it's not getting in. Like, yes, getting in sucks. It's really, really cold. It's not getting in and swimming that's going to be the hard part. Is going to be the rest of the day while your body goes from being shivering cold, and like, shivering takes a lot of energy out of you. So you're going to go from shivering cold to like barely shivering to, okay, I think I'm warm again. And then you'll feel like that exhaustion where your muscles are like, oh my gosh, I shivered for like 2 hours. Especially if you don't have a good way to get warm, like if you have a long drive home or you don't hop in a shower right away, whatever your situation may be different from mine. It usually takes me like a good 40 to 45 minutes to get warm again. And then as soon as I get cold again, I get ultra cold again. Like, when I get out of the hot shower, I just start to shiver again. My body is so devoid of energy that it can't, it can't devote more and more energy without my muscles starting to feel like, oh, I actually like did like a really decent workout today. It's just because you're like so tense from your muscles having to work really hard to shiver yourself warm. So I'm going to leave it there. Please let me know what questions you have, what I can answer. I will do a couple more videos about cold water acclimatization and give you some more stories. And if you're planning to head out and you are in the Boston area and you need a worrier, you need someone for support, please reach out. If it's not me, like, I can probably find someone who might be available. Just don't take unnecessary risks. Like, we all love you, and we love our open water community and our swimming community too much to have people just like go and get hypothermic and have active, like, freak accidents in the water. It's not worth it. So hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you soon.